I've been a reporter on and off for 50 years, but I've never brought my family into a story. Until Nick, because he moves me deeply. Should we go and look at the ducks? Awesome.
When Nick was diagnosed, I actually hired a babysitter so that I could go sit in my car in a parking lot and cry, because I couldn't do it here with the kids.
Allison was trained as a psychiatric social worker, but like many parents, has made virtually a new career of caring for her son with autism.
I remember one day I was sitting at the computer and he was about 16 months old, and I caught out of the corner of my eye that he was spinning one of Neely's doll's plates. And I'd never seen a child play that way before, ever. And I went in to interrupt him and he wouldn't stop, and there was an intensity about it, and I had this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach because I knew something was wrong.
That worry sent Allison to a developmental pediatrician who confirmed their fears. Nick had autism.
Nick was irritable, crying, inconsolable, and now is not on track developmentally at all. He's gone backwards. So we went from a 15-month appointment where this child was A-OK, supposedly, and given the MMR, the DTaP, and the HIB vaccines. But people say to me, Allison, it's a coincidence. Allison, how do you know this happened? Well, it's impossible for me to know. But what I will say is this: it was not a coincidence that my child was diagnosed with autism at the same time that his whole system shut down. Something happened to my child.
I understand Allison's suspicion, but public health authorities say there is no scientifically valid evidence that vaccines cause autism. And Allison found little support from the developmental pediatrician.
When I said to her, this child has not had a formed bowel movement since the 15-month shots, she said, children with autism have diarrhea. When I said that he was crying inconsolably, she said, this is part of autism. They can't regulate their emotions. So it was all lumped under, yes, we always see that with autism. It's
Nick's
just autism.
complex problems demanded a broader view of autism. Some call it a new paradigm, or a systemic illness, or a whole body experience.
Hello, Nicholas.
One of the leaders of that new thinking is Dr. Timothy Bowie, a pediatric gastroenterologist at Massachusetts General Hospital.
6 months ago, he was so lethargic and so out of it that he came into the office and literally laid on the chair for a 30 or 40-minute visit. He never moved. He wouldn't interact. He wouldn't give you any eye contact whatsoever. And at the end of the appointment, Mom picked him up and took him out and went home.
Dr. Bowie found changes in the lower GI tract. He called lymphoid nodular hyperplasia.
Some of the digestive enzymes are time-released, so that
Inflammation and damage in his small intestine. How does that affect the life of a child like Nick? For instance, does it give him pain?
I think it can give pain, and I think pain in a child with autism is a very difficult thing to assess, because a child with autism can't vocalize that. He will very often not come to you and say, I've got a bellyache. He can't use those words. So he may exhibit that as a child who doesn't sleep well. He may exhibit that as a child who has a lot of increased agitation or hyperstimulatory type behaviors. And part of the problem with that is that we've accepted that those are behaviors that we often see in children with autism, and we've written it off to their autism. So it's very difficult to think through whether that's a marker for pain in some of those kids if we're unwilling to look for other reasons.
Do you think the medical community and your contact with it understands this wider definition of autism?
Emphatically, no. They can't just refer these kids to early intervention and consider this a psychiatric or neuropsychiatric situation. They've got to stay involved and help the family get referrals for gastroenterology, to neurologists to look at whether or not there's seizure activity.